Everybody, welcome to the CUNDA-CAST podcast, episode 4. I'm here with Nick from Seed Canary,
What's up?
and today we're going to talk about things that he has going on and any other growing, like anything.
Well, we started a few new breeding projects. These are going to be both feminized seeds and regular seeds of the same strains, so that'll be fun. Those should hopefully by midsummer. I know I keep delaying it, but I'm hoping by then we'll have them all kind of tested and have photos and stuff before we could release them. So hopefully maybe around June, maybe early July, those should drop. But yeah, those are going to be some pretty fire genetics right there.
And were those the femmes?
Well, they'll be both in femmes and regular seed like form. There's going to be sour bubble crosses, apples and bananas crosses, of course, Devil's 13 crosses, and then maybe around at the end of the summer we'll drop a rainbow belts and apples and bananas cross as well. So that's kind of like the few of the ones that we're more excited for, if that makes sense. But there's going to be a couple other ones in between as well. But just all about testing and having photos and stuff before we get there.
Yeah, and when do the Chicago Fire and Devil's 13 femmes drop?
Chicago Fire is probably going to be a bit delayed, just because we haven't really had enough to basically hunt all of them and find the best ones. Devil's 13, the femmes should be probably within end of June, early July time frame as well. That's kind of what we were first kind of prioritizing it, just because I'm really excited for that one. I think Devil's 13 has a lot of potential. Chicago Fire does as well. It's just in order for our plant count to be where it should be, we kind of had to just pick one. But yeah, Chicago Fire, that'll be end of summer.
Yeah. Are you thinking of reversing the more tropical sativa structure pheno that you had?
Good question. I've thought about it a few times. I think what I'm going to do is, because I have 3 main phenotypes that I'm kind of looking at right now. The one that we talked about is definitely going to be bred with one of them, but the other 2, I haven't really decided which one I want the keeper to be just yet. I have one purple phenotype, and then I have one phenotype that's a mutant, but it really stacks well. It's a very high yielder. So far, it's looking like it's going to yield even more than the one that I sent you. So I might breed with that, and because the purple phenotype, it's beautiful and all, but the yield and the structure just kind of ain't there. It's a lot more leafy, not very dense buds, if that makes sense. So I don't really want to breed with something just because it's purple. But I might keep it and work with it.
I wonder if you bred it with a higher yield plant, if you could stabilize it so it's both purple and has a high yield.
See, that's what I was thinking too. I'm looking for a male Devil's 13 phenotype that I could kind of breed with that. That way I'm able to have regular seeds of those. That way kind of more stabilize the purple phenotype. And then eventually maybe we could have like isolation of a purple Devil's 13. That's kind of my goal with that. But yeah, it all depends. That one I kind of want to run again just to see, because the first run was a tester run. We had them stress tested, so I didn't really get to see the full potential, just enough to kind of see where it's at, while making sure it's not going to hurt me on me too, because that's what I usually do. I put them through hell, to be honest. Each pheno run I do, I start them in half-gallon pots, and flower them in that pot as well. So they're pretty small, but then in weeks 1 to 3, I do they're under HPS, so it's going to be higher heat. I also overfeed nitrogen because that also kind of stresses them out and kind of increases the chances of them herming and stuff like that. So those are kind of like the tactics I like to use, because I want my stuff to be, as strong as possible. That way, if new growers are using my seeds, they don't, if they were to mess up, it's not going to be too detrimental to the entire grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I've noticed that you use G13 in a lot of your crosses. Is
I
that one of
do.
your like favorite old school?
It's definitely one of them. The thing about G13 hash plant in particular is it's all about which phenotype you get. So say you pop five, right? You might
Yeah.
get one that has more, denser buds. They stack better. And that's the one that you are looking for. Also, the frosty ones. It's called the white phenotype. Uh, that phenotype in particular, it's kind of hard to find, but if you were to find it and if it does produce dense buds, definitely keep that one because that's kind of like the best G13, I guess, like cultivar that you kind of want to look for. Because the other ones I've seen were very, what do you call it, like, the bud structure wasn't really there. They were more like fluffy buds, more airy, and like, it was definitely like a quality difference. But the one that I did find, I found one male and one female. The female was, perfect. The male, I chose the male because of the stem rub, and it also was the highest yielding male. And that one is, I must have got lucky because everything that I've crossed with that has turned out to be pretty fire. I've seen increased trichome production in all those offspring as well. Um, and the aroma seems to be a bit slightly fruitier with everything that was crossed with it, uh, while still having that old school G13 dank aroma. So if you've grown that strain, you probably know what I'm talking about. But I definitely do like that strain, and usually crosses of that is also pretty good as well.
Do you still have a mother that's alive?
Of the G13,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't. Yeah, that's kind of something I do regret. I was trying to keep it alive. I took clones, flower the mother, and then I had the clones flower those, and then due to plant count issues, I had to kind of get rid of some of those, and that was one of the ones I picked to get rid of. But I kind of wish I did save it, to be honest. But I will probably be running G13 hash plant again. I do have more seeds, so it might be something I do here soon.
So how do you choose which clones you run on your marketplace?
Um, Good question. So things that are hype right now, such as like pure Michigan, apples and bananas, rainbow belts, white truffle. Those are the ones I usually put up to sell, just because it's kind of like what everybody's after right now. Once in a while, I do put my own cultivars up, just because it, it's kind of a good feeling when people buy cultivars that you've actually personally hunted for, especially
Yeah.
of your own strains, because it's your work, not someone else's, if that makes sense. Like if I'm
Yeah.
selling a white truffle, that's Beliefs Genetics. So I'm basically, in a way, advertising for them in a sense, while kind of, profiting off their cut, which, it's not a wrong thing to do, of course, because there's so many other places that do that. Um, but, once it's your own genetics, it hits different.
Yeah. Do you have any of your cuts up there right now?
Currently, no. Devil's 13 was up there for, I want to say, maybe a month, but I took that down just because we didn't really have much clones of that left. Um,
Yeah.
Plus, I kind of want to keep it as like a specialty type of thing, just because I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but I want my crosses and my clones of my crosses up, but I also don't want people to try selling them for a lower price than me, if that makes sense, in my own work. So I mean, I know that's kind of a hypocritical thing to say to me, but I mean.
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to take clones off of it and put them outside. But Would you mind if I sold some locally?
I wouldn't mind at all. I mean, with Devil's 13, especially, I do think there's medicinal value in that strain. So that's why I did put that one up. There's some, cultivars that I wouldn't sell just because, like, they're kind of more special to me. But Devil's
Yeah.
13 is kind of one of those crosses and the cultivars that I would hate myself if I didn't, because why shouldn't I share with other people if that makes sense? Like I think it might, be beneficial to some people. I think a lot of people might like that cross. So that's why I put it up. But yeah, I have no problems with you selling that or giving away or whatever. So I mean, whatever you want to do with it, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to I like to get people's permission before I go and do anything like
Yeah, I
that.
appreciate that. I mean, not many people would do that.
Yeah. Have you thought of seen the white truffle's been up there for a while. Have you thought of crossing that with anything?
um, so yes and no. White truffle is one of those crosses that you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. And what I mean by that is I've talked to, countless people. I've talked to home growers that have grown that. I've talked to commercial growers that have grown that as well. I've gotten mixed results. Some people have low yield with that one. And I do believe that. Some people have decent yield or, a higher yield if they're able to, run it in the correct environment. Just like with anything, it's always the environment that kind of makes it or breaks it. So white truffle, I do kind of believe it's slightly on the lower yielding side of things, but the bag appeal and everything else definitely is there. So I do think I'll probably cross it with one of my higher yielding strains. That's also pretty something that's pretty easy to grow as well, like Devil's 13 possibly, or even Chicago Fire if I do find a good phenotype of that, which I'm sure I would when the time comes. So there's definitely potential. I do probably see myself making a cross with that one day soon. But yeah, it kind of just all depends.
Yeah. Yeah, because I noticed that you did a cross with the apples and bananas that was up there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Apples and bananas is definitely no joke. I do like that cross. The thing about that one in particular is the yield is it's different compared to Devil's 13 or one of my other crosses. If you see the stuff that I make and it has those giant buds, the big long, colas. Apples and bananas does have colas, but they're smaller. There's kind of more smaller buds, if that makes sense. But as far as everything else, quality, bag appeal, aroma, it's there. But I mean, that's kind of how it goes for all the kind of newer strains. The yield is slightly less compared to old school genetics. I mean, it's fair to say.
Yeah. So what made you get into stuff like the spore syringe selling? Just popularity?
Sports ridges. Well, a lot of people have been, or originally asking me if that's something that we would sell, and I was on the fence for it for a while because I kind of just want Seed Canary to be just strictly for cannabis seeds and clones.
Yeah.
But then I thought about, it, I was like, well, spores syringes, they are, I have the space and and basically all the equipment anyway to make them. So I did start, and then I did get, quite a bit of sales at first, and I kind of started using, all the profits I got from that, and I put them back into specifically for making spore syringes and getting more, varieties and stuff. So it did pretty much, work itself out. And I mean, it took off, and I really never have any customers come to me with issues with spore syringes. We make them in a very clean, like lab type setup. So I think since I'm doing it, pretty good. I was actually trained by someone that I mean I don't know if I should say this on here, but someone that knows what they're doing. And he kind of taught me how to make spore syringes effectively, how to make them in bulk, how to have everything sterile, and kind of showed me all of that. So that's how I learned from him. But yeah, I definitely I think magic mushrooms and stuff is going to be kind of where old school cannabis used to be in the market, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
going to be more legal. It's going to be more profitable eventually. I mean, it already is, but it's just going to be something that's more, kind of like how weed first became, if that makes sense. That's how I think, anyway.
Yeah. So, what usually, probably a dumb question, but what sells more usually, the seeds or the clones?
Um, that's a good question. I want to say seeds are probably still the top, product that sells the most. Clones would be, number two. It just depends on the month too. Some months
Yeah.
clones will be better, some months seeds will be better. But seeds usually is pretty consistent.
Yeah. So, do you know any of the vendors on your site personally?
I mean, I've talked to all of them. As far as like, like, do you mean if they're local, like in person, or just over the phone?
Um, well, local.
Local, no. Well, actually, I could say that. Yeah, there was one. I won't say their name just because that might, you know, put them out there. But we did
Yeah.
have a vendor that was very well known, and they're not selling clones anymore, but they used to be strictly for clones. And that person in particular used to literally live 15 minutes away from me, and I didn't know them or anything. They, know, came to me. They emailed me. They said, they want to know how to join stuff. So I signed them up, and then they called me, and we started asking questions, or she started asking questions, and then it came out that, yeah, they were literally 15 minutes away from me. I was like, wow, it's small, small world.
Yeah. So, so what's going on with like, the only, like, there's one name that really sticks out, Elevate Seeds.
Yeah. Um, so they're not really a active vendor currently.
Yeah.
They were selling, maybe about a year ago. Um, but yeah, that's as far as that. I don't believe they're active. They might come back. Sound like they might. It just they. This, from what I understand, seed banks is kind of like their more of their thing since this is a marketplace where they have to handle all that.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of the bigger breeders kind of like to just sell all their stock to multiple seed banks instead of handling the orders themselves. So
Yeah. Which I don't, I feel like I'm I'm wondering why seed banks are more popular. Probably because they're more advertised, but because I
yeah,
feel like you'd want to talk to the vendor one on one to learn about stuff.
right. I mean, so seed banks, as a vendor or a breeder perspective, you know, usually most seed banks take about 50% of the commit or of the sale. So say I have a pack of seeds that's cost $100. I might make 50 of it myself. I'm the breeder, and then the seed bank makes $50 for basically selling the product,
Yeah.
and they handle shipping as well. So if you think about it, it would be easier, but there's less profit to make. Whereas if you sign up on Seed Canary, you're gonna make basically almost entire profit. I mean, other than 6%, a transaction fee, which that's really nothing
Yeah.
when let's think about it.
Yeah, well, I'm talking more about the buyer themselves. I feel like as a buyer, you'd want to talk to the vendor who is
Oh
ever
yeah,
breeding. Yeah.
for sure. I do agree with you. Because I see this a lot. Especially with seed banks. If you were to, say you want a pack of seeds and you find a website or a seed bank that has those, and sometimes they don't even have photos. They have no information. So you're either left to do your own research on Google or whatever. Try to email the breeder if they respond, or email the seed bank, which they might not have the information for themselves. Just because
Yeah.
they're not the ones breeding those genetics. It's just resale. So I do see that it, that's kind of the thing that's also cool with Seed Canary is that you could literally talk to the breeder. You could ask those questions. If you want to know the flowering time, you can literally email them or message them through the website, and they'll respond. Pretty simple. I think that is kind of like a advantage we have too, just because it's just more convenient for the buyer too.
Yeah. How do you feel about the seeing maybe two vendors who just sell copycat genetics?
Um, Say that one more time. Sorry, kind of broke up.
There's two vendors who are just selling copycat genetics.
Yeah. So, because the way we have it is you don't have to be a breeder to register. You could either be, basically just
Yeah,
a vendor. So it could be a reseller or, a breeder, or a
yeah,
clone dealer. Those are kind of the three, main types of vendors, if that makes sense. Um,
yep.
but yeah, copycat genetics, I don't really have a, what do you call it? Like a,
No opinion on them.
yeah, right. Um,
Yeah,
but I've never had any complaints. There's no customers that have, had issues with germination or,
yeah,
the plant itself. So that's kind of all I could say. Um,
yeah. I feel like it's weird that that he sells the seeds on his site. What was it? $3,500, and then you can
right.
find them that are let's place like on here where it's like 200.
Yeah. So I don't know this for a fact. I could definitely be wrong. But I do know Copycat, they do have a program where you could buy, say, I don't know the number of how many you would buy, but it's like say like 10 or 20 packs. And instead of paying the retail price, you're gonna be paying way less. So then you can then resell them. So I do think that's kind of like what they're doing is they're more of a
Yeah.
reseller for Copycat. So
Hmm.
they're able to kind of like flip the packs and profit off almost as much as Copycat. Not quite, but what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I think. That's what's going on with that.
Yeah. Uh, so so you said that you were doing a cross with a Wallapini.
Yeah, that's in the works. We did have a plan for with my Devil's 13, doing a run with, I believe he said prom night,
Yeah.
because those are kind of they're kind of similar, in structure wise and appearance wise. So yeah, that is something that I hope to do soon. I'm kind of having some issues with my flower run right now. For me personally, my my biggest issue I always have is timing, scheduling the runs because, for example, if I'm reversing a plant or a clone and I have, say, plants and flower right now, and if I'm unable to collect pollen or maybe it's go slower, I could kind of miss that peak to pollinate. So that is kind of
Yeah.
something that I've kind of had issues with twice now. But that's only with reversing. Males, it's so much easier for me because if I have a male that I know is a male, I put in 2 weeks before I put in the females, and it's done. But sometimes reversing female plant, that could kind of be tricky. But I mean, I'll get the hang of it. I mean, I've done successfully in the past. It's all about timing.
Yeah. Um, so with so like where do most of your sales come from? Is it like word of mouth or is online?
A little bit of both. So at first we were primarily advertising on social media and Discord and stuff like that. So more or less word of mouth. And then I started using digital ads through Mantis, which that also kind of helps because that's kind of like a second way of getting traffic plus doing the other stuff. But now I'm still using Mantis, but it seems like now that we're at that point where our customers are telling, their friends and their friends are telling their friends. So it's almost, just a repeating cycle of, traffic. It definitely was hard to get to this point though. I'm not going to lie because, first year really, I wasn't really making any profit. It was all going back into the business. And then on year two, that's when, I was able to more or less make profit. And things were running more smoothly. And we're close to being on 3 years now. So, within 6 months, we'll be at year three. But yeah, I definitely do see a future. Because I mean, right now, like I said, we've kind of taken off just this past year to the point where, clones, for example, majority of the time I, am able to sell out before I'm able to, have more, if that makes sense. Like as soon as I post them, I'll get orders and then they're gone. And then I have to, basically, start a new tray of all those, types of strains. And then, kind of, have the customers wait and stuff. I'm getting better with that, with scheduling, taking cuttings and stuff. It's hard sometimes when you're working with plants. I'm not a manufacturer. I can't, say, oh, there's 500 or not 500. Say there's like 50 orders, right?
Yeah.
And if I was making, a product itself, I could, make all 50 products. But when you're relying on a plant, sometimes that could be hard because if that plant gets sick or if, it's just not ready to, take cuttings from or whatever the case is, that could kind of delay things by weeks. It could kind of delay customers. It could cause a lot of problems. So now that's what I do is I don't list products that I don't have in stock already. So if, I run out of, say, Super Lemon Haze and I know that mother's sick, I take the listing down and, that way I'm not having customers continue to order that and then, they're waiting and stuff because I did used to have it where, if I were to run out, there was a notice where, you could either email us beforehand to make sure we have them in stock or, you could order and then if we don't have them, we'll just, wait 2 weeks basically. I don't like doing that though because that kind of creates stress on myself, the people that also work for me, and then the customer too because they're kind of wondering, hey, where's my clone? So that's why now I just basically keep inventory. I think that's kind of a very important part to staying unstressed because that was definitely problematic.
Yeah. Uh, have you ever thought of I know you're kind of restricted in Illinois, if I'm
Yeah.
correct. Have you ever thought of moving out of Illinois?
All the time actually. um, I haven't really decided where or what state we'll be moving to eventually. I want to say hopefully Michigan. That's kind of one that's more closer.
And
They
no,
also
you
have
gotta
better.
do New York. You gotta do New York.
Yeah,
Because
New
that's where
York.
I am.
I mean, I do think New York's going to have better laws compared to Illinois. I mean, Illinois just it sucks. It's a shitty state. I'm sorry, but it really is. New York, I do see potential there, though. I mean, it sounds like there's just already just so much loopholes, and I heard there's head shops, that are able
Yeah.
to sell flour and get away with it, and that wouldn't fly here in Illinois. They'd be shut down that day. So if
Yeah.
that kind of tells you anything.
Well, I mean, don't know if you heard about it, but a bunch of pop-up shops are actually in New York are getting fined like tens of thousands of dollars now.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they were caught. Yeah, I guess it was a problem. Because I found it was kind of weird because when I heard that it had to have the first legal dispensary and then like a year after that, then people can start getting their license to open up shops. And I found it weird that a bunch of shops were just popping up out of nowhere, and I was like, wait a minute. I don't
Yeah, I
but
mean, That is,
That's-
I don't know. It's cool that they were able to do that and get away with it. It just,
Yeah,
that's the thing about our government. They want the money too,
yeah,
and every state has an issue. Some states are better than others. Michigan's better than Illinois. California is
yeah.
really good too, and their own ways.
I heard
But
Virginia's not bad.
yeah, Virginia I've heard is really good actually right now. But yeah, eventually I don't know. I'm scared of when it does become federally legal because then I kind of worry, what other regulations are they going to put? What other, taxes and, restrictions and that kind of stuff they're going to do to, throughout
Yeah,
for every, state. That's kind of a worry I have because Illinois, for example, the taxes for, just flour or, it's very high, to the point where if you were a commercial grower that were growing flour for dispensaries, it's very hard to make profit. I've had friends that are in the industry that are they're not in good standing right now just because it's very after when they sell dispensaries for basically half of what it's worth plus half that gets taxed, they're kind of
yeah,
left with nothing.
yeah. Have you lived in Illinois your whole life?
Oh, I have, yeah. um like I said, I mean, I do hope to move out here soon, just because Illinois, I've never really liked being here, but plus with my business now, Illinois wasn't very. Um, they didn't really like what I was doing at first. It took me 3 tries to even get approved by the state just to get my license. Just because they were very insistent that I would need a dispensary license, not a commercial cultivation license, but a dispensary license too, just to sell the seeds.
Yeah,
Not because I'm not interested in selling flour. That's something that even though I would love to do that, like personally, it's just not realistic for me. But just to sell seeds, I would have to get a dispensary license, and I had to argue that. I had to get a lawyer, and we kind of had to do the fine print of things just to kind of get myself be approved because yeah, they did not like that.
uh, even though seeds are technically classified as souvenirs, or you can technically classify them as.
Yeah, so that was actually before the whole farm bill
Oh,
passed.
okay. Yeah,
But this was when the souvenir thing was still standing. Like every, everybody was thinking that you could sell them as souvenirs, and Illinois in particular said no, like that's not how it is. If it's a cannabis byproduct, it's considered cannabis. You need a dispensary license to sell cannabis. And I was like, well,
yeah,
but it's not though. It's a souvenir. It's there's no THC. It's CBD seeds or whatever. Like I was, I argued every point, and they were like, no. So until I got a lawyer, and they did the very very fine print, because that's actually how I was able to get away with it at first. Is I wasn't selling my own genetics. I was letting vendors sell their seeds, and they handled the sales. I just processed the money. So that's how I was able to kind of get started until the farm bill passed, and then I was able to sell my own seeds as well, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, they definitely were tough.
yeah. Do you think if you were in a more lenient state, you would have that problem?
Oh, definitely not. I mean, if I was in Michigan, I'd actually be doing better right now because I would be allowed to have, more plants. I'd be allowed to have less restrictions actually, for
Yeah,
doing a nursery. Now for, selling flower, everywhere you go, selling flower is kind of tough.
yeah,
The lab tests they have to do. And I had a friend that actually, he had an entire, I it's bigger than a room, a whole warehouse in flour, right? He was using scrogs, and the netting that he had wasn't plastic. It was it had fiber. And I guess
yep,
since there was very small particles of fiber found in the cannabis. They
Yeah.
denied they failed in the test, and he was able to sell any of that. So that's what I mean about like I don't think it'd be realistic for me because yeah, it's all about I don't yeah, it's not right to have fibers or whatever in your cannabis that you're selling, but at the same
Yeah.
time, a very small thing like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's really holding you back from moving right now? Money, probably.
That and also family. My
Yeah.
mom, she has a disability, and if I
Yeah.
were to, leave out of state, it would affect her too. So that's kind of what's kind of
Yeah.
holding me back, to be honest. But hopefully one day, things will work out, and I'll be able to kind of, or maybe even, have a business in Michigan, but I stay in Illinois or something like that. I'm hoping. It just kind of all depends. I'm not really too sure what the future holds just yet.
Yeah.
Um, I'm kind of just, it's a waiting game if that makes sense. I'm trying to do the best of what I can in Illinois until I'm able to figure that out.
Yeah. So is it still pretty hard or to work with?
It's workable now. That the
Yeah.
farm bill definitely helped things. That's for sure. Because now the state doesn't really classify that since but it is still tougher on other aspects. As far as plant count goes, and everything else. Plus, like zoning, for example, to get like a property that you're able to do that kind of thing in. Um, Real estate is more expensive here in Illinois compared to some other states, and it just I don't know. Like I said, everything about the state kind of just sucks.
Yeah. So so I know you said the Discord used to be more popular. What really caused the falling of that?
Um, so when I first started Discord, that was in 2019. No, that was in 2020, early 2020.
Yeah.
Um, and we weren't the first cannabis related, Discord server, but we were one of the few, and primarily one of the only ones that allowed other people to sell seeds and trade seeds and that kind of stuff. So we
Yeah.
really did blow up because, like I said, we were kind of one of the first, and then other breeder, not really breeders, other seed companies, seed banks and stuff. They also started doing it, and then people that weren't even seed banks but saw myself doing it, they started doing it as well, using the same methods I did, same layout, everything. And by doing so, they also would, privately invite all of my members and stuff. And it kind of got to the point where there's so many discords now that, people aren't really just in mine, if that makes sense. They're just kind of in everyone. And, people, the discords that are doing giveaways and stuff, like, of
That's
course,
what I
there's
was
going to
about
be
to say.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where it's kind of hard to kind of keep up the momentum with Discord because you're just, there's quite a bit of discords now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only way to especially if you're smaller, the only way to really counter giveaways is if you could pick up sponsors, I guess, but that's a
Exactly
pain in
right.
the ass because
Yeah.
they want you to have a humongous page and stuff, and
Right.
then
Yeah.
it's hard to even grow your page because Instagram does their
Yeah.
funny thing. Yeah, and I think I'm shadow banned. They straight out pretty much told me. uh,
Yeah. I'm on account number like 5 now, and I just hit 1,000 followers on that account. Because every time I hit or I'm above 1,000 followers, that's when I always get it taken down. Um,
yeah,
I don't think it's Instagram in particularly that is taking me down. It's more or less people match reporting my posts and competitors and stuff.
hmm
That's kind of what I think is kind of happening because
yeah. I
it
don't think Instagram takes you down. I think they put
bots or
they
whatever to.
flag a couple of posts and say, hey, basically, we're not going to show you to anybody other than people who follow you because we don't like this. And then you say, hey, I don't agree with this. And then they're like, yeah, okay. And then we'll look at this. And then a day later, they're like, yeah, we looked at it. We still don't. But the only way to actually contact Meta support is to pay for their verification.
Yeah, I've heard about that, and I've kind of considered doing that. But the problem with me right now is since I was suspended from Instagram so many times, and I've
Yeah.
had my Instagram linked to my Facebook account, right?
Yeah.
That basically, if I were to link my Facebook account for the Meta thing, my Facebook account is basically permanently suspended for to be connected to Instagram. I'm not really too sure, like, you know, I mean, I know why, but it sucks because I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. There's
Yeah.
other accounts that are doing way worse. Scammers and stuff. Their accounts are fine, but the moment you post seeds or something, advertising your business, it's you know fair game, I guess, and people report your posts and yeah, so it sucks. I wish we weren't really like that in this industry. If the cannabis community should be, a community, not, I mean, yes, industry too, but what I'm saying is, competitors, we shouldn't be taking down each other. We should be helping each other grow. We should be improving, what we do. Genetics we make, the flower we produce. That's what we should be doing instead of, worrying about, oh, they might be making more money. Let's take them down. That's kind of something I don't really agree with, and it does suck. I also kind of believe what's happening is, the people that are at the top, the big companies in the industry. I don't have proof, but I kind of feel like they might be contributing some of it, to try to kind of lower the competition to kind of suppress the smaller end people.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember stepping in to be a mod for the server, and yeah, it is pretty hard to keep it uh, active, and I've been kind of inactive, but it's also been because I've been busy, and I've been trying to think of ways to get it going again, but which one of the ways I guess would be giveaways, but I'd have to find a way maybe to get somebody to hop in and send me seeds, which I would project on my Instagram, even though it is shadow banned.
Yeah, well, with the new drops that are coming, once these seeds do drop, even if
Yeah.
they're available as just testers, I do plan on doing pretty frequent
Yeah.
giveaways. The newer strain that we have is Zoomies. Those I'm kind of waiting to see what the testers, what their results are before I put more out
Yeah.
there. But I do plan, like I said, once we get those seeds, I kind of do plan on doing more frequent giveaways, maybe even weekly or something, depending on how good it
Yeah.
all goes. But yeah, it is hard because when everybody's doing giveaways, it's kind of just creates that it creates an
Yeah.
issue, if it makes sense. Like, because with Discord, it's kind of hard to differentiate yourself between something that's just like you. You're kind of everything that you have available, they have available. It's not like a website or something that you could make completely different. That's not like anything
Yeah.
else. So that's kind of where it's like those limitations kind of go with that. I like the idea of Discord. I really do. There is still potential. I think we just kind of have to keep the flow going, and
Yeah.
you know, the hard part too is if just social media in general is if I were to say, okay, let's post on Instagram about our server and stuff. How long until we get those posts taken down or something?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the thing that kind of it's hard, because when you have when you're on your fifth Instagram account, it's like kind of gets discouraging because like, well, I'm only gonna have this account for so long until it's gone.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of trying to figure out ways to kind of get around it without like while still kind of promoting stuff. What I was doing was I was actually advertising the vendor, their seeds. I was actually, putting the pictures of seeds up and, their pictures of the plant itself. But the thing is, with that in particular, I that's kind of how I got the whole competition idea from because those posts would always be taken
Yeah.
down, like every time, and that was kind of what was killing all those accounts. So I stopped doing that, which I didn't want to do because like I said, I intended to advertise for all the vendors, but with the way Instagram is, it's not like it's not easy to do. So now I kind of just post pictures of plants or post pictures of what we're doing or things like that that don't really say hey, we're selling this, come check it out, but just kind of discreetly.
Yeah. I heard if you have posts that are flagged and you have the verification mark, that if you do contact them and you tell them you're in a legal state and stuff, that they will unflag them. But the problem with that is that you have to pay them money for the verification mark in the first place, which I think is dumb that you have to even do that to reach support for something that you're on. But
Yeah, I do hear you with that. It is kind of it makes you question too, like they know that there's a problem within the campus community and being on social media. They know that. Like how wouldn't they? So it kind of makes me feel like they're kind of doing that thing where it's like, okay, so I know that you have a problem because we're giving you a problem. So if you pay me, you're not going to have that problem anymore. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I'm feeling about that whole
yeah,
situation. Like kind of like a power thing. Like I don't know. It's not right, especially because I've reached out to Instagram numerous times, especially after my first two accounts that were bigger. When those got taken down, I was I emailing Instagram like almost every day trying to get help, and I got nothing. They wouldn't even respond, and then I got the final your account's terminated type email. So yeah, I don't really agree with it. I don't think you should have to pay in order to have support or not be, taken down from, Instagram. It's kind of, I don't know. It ain't
yeah,
right.
it isn't. So who are do you have any like anybody who's a vendor on the site that's been there since the beginning?
Yeah, we do have a few. Let me see, for example,
Has,
I think of some of the ones that have been
has
for
Kobe's
a
Organics been
while. I mean, I know Crossbones,
there? Is it?
Kobe's Organics, yeah, he's been here for, I want to say about a year now. Um, and he's a really cool guy. I've spoken to him quite a few times, personally, and he he knows his shit. I'll tell you that he's a breeder I respect a lot because he's been doing it for years and years and years, like way before it was even legal in any state. um, he told me some stories, and I was just like, wow, because I mean, you know, I'm not really afraid to admit it, but before it was legal here, I did have experience growing. I'm not new to the business, to say the least. But you know, he's older than I am as well, and he has so much experience that it's crazy. So I do give him a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, his pages on the vendor pages, the one that really caught my eyes is, but it's also probably because instead of a logo, he has his plants up there as a profile pic, just like you actually.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he because he used to be in the music industry as well. So what he's doing now is he has guitar picks that they're customized to this Kobe's Organics, and he's including those of his as freebies of orders too, which I think is a really cool idea on his part. And He, like I said, never had issues with him either or any of his orders. He gets them out right away. Um, I feel comfortable with him because it's like the hard part when you run a marketplace is knowing that all your vendors are doing what they're supposed to. I can't, you know, be there for every order, making sure every order gets fulfilled because there's just, you know, it's too many and too kind of, for one person
Yeah.
or, I mean, so that's where, I have to kind of like, once the vendor signs up, I do have to kind of vet them a little bit, to make sure, we're on the same page, that they're legitimate, that they're not gonna, either A, scam people, or B, which is very hard to scam people on Seed Canary, by the way, which I'll explain
Yeah.
later. But, or, they might, take a week to send the order out, and customers don't really like that these days. Things are fast paced now. I try to tell the vendors to send out orders within 3 days after they were placed because otherwise, that could lead to a bad review
Yeah.
or a customer complaint or something. So
Yeah, so I've noticed like on a Crossbones page, he's got a review that I feel like shouldn't really count, with this guy who says never got them, and then the guy puts another review at 5 stars that says my bad, I did receive the seeds and they germinated perfectly. I apologize.
yeah, that's the thing. I do feel bad because I don't believe that review really um, is correct, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. But the thing is, it kind of puts me in a bind
yeah,
too because I do have the ability to remove that review. I do.
yeah,
It's just I mean, I don't want to be known as that guy that takes down reviews because I don't agree with them because that could kind of fall back on me.
yeah,
I've did do that once for somebody, because I knew I forgot what vendor it was, but it was a vendor that I knew, like, and it was something that was like very I don't know, I forgot what happened exactly, but I did do that, and then I had emails from that person accusing me of doing some crazy thing, and it's saying that they're going to report me to the Better Business Bureau and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff, and I was like, oh my god, so that's why I don't delete any reviews anymore because even if I know they're wrong, it's
yeah.
just you know it
Well,
sucks.
I guess the hot vendor thing does help.
Yeah, that's a kind of a good thing I added to is the vendor badges.
Yeah,
That way you can kind of see how reputable these vendors are. Some vendors are new; they might not have reviews, but they might have badges. And if they have badges, that means they received orders and they completed orders. And they might just be new to where they haven't gotten reviews yet.
yeah,
Reviews, reviews are kind of hard for people to get just because if when you think about it, how many times you order something without ever leaving a review,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's something that we're all kind of at fault for. I mean, I've ordered stuff from Amazon or various other places, and I haven't left a review. I mean, sometimes I do if it's like a really really great thing. Sometimes I do. I've been more. I've been trying to leave reviews more often now, just because I did kind of see that.
yeah.
Trying to do my part, but unless you really think of it that way, you're probably not going to, leave reviews for everything you
Yeah.
get, So,
Yeah, and a lot of reviews, like on seed banks, all the bad reviews are kind of dumb. It's like only 3 of my seeds popped, and there's some point where you question it: is that user error? Are you planting them wrong?
right.
Or
And that is something that does happen. I mean, I've had vendors that, you know, I mean, it doesn't happen too often, but I've had complaints where they say, "Hey, I bought these seeds from so and so, and I put them on a heat mat, and they didn't germinate, none of them. They just died or
yeah,
something." And then I kind of have to tell the vendor, and then the vendor might say, "Well, no, those seeds definitely germinate. I just did a test, yesterday or something, or things like that." So it's kind of very hard to say who's right, who's wrong. I mean, yeah, usually if the vendor knows that those seeds are good and that they germinate, they have high rates, it's easy to say, yeah, maybe the customer did mess up. But from the customer's perspective, they got seeds and they didn't germinate. So, usually you have to just replace them. That is kind of like one of those things where it's just, it's easier to replace instead of argue. Because if you argue about it, then you're kind of known as that company that doesn't want to help, their customers and stuff like that. So,
have you ever grown any of the genetics from any of your vendors?
I have actually from a couple of them. That's the thing. I really wish I was able to grow everything. It just, with plant count and stuff and those restrictions, it's kind of, I have to kind of, you know, not grow what's important, but grow like what I know is either A, going to sell, like, for clones or whatever, or B, things like my own genetics that I'm able to kind of keep breeding. So, I have ran, for example, Controls Group Toast Turtles before, and those seeds I like those a lot. I actually think I have some somewhere of those. I'll have to run those again because, yeah, I definitely really like that. And then who else? There's a couple other people I've grown from. Kobe's Organics, we've actually talked about, sharing seeds before and, sending him some of my genetics and, vice versa. He's actually running the real deal Colombian Gold right now. And then Colombian Black he has too, but I don't believe he's running that one yet. But he got some, like, from Colombia, like, legitimately, like, it's the real deal. I won't really explain how he got them because,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's land races. I mean, I know they are kind of out of style right now, but that's kind of like one of those things that me and him kind of share in common is I like land races. Some of them. Some land races, yeah, they are shitty. Okay, I'll admit that. But like Colombian Gold and like the stuff from Pakistan stuff, like they're good genetics. I mean, they're those is what were used to breed what we have today. In theory, everything kind of at once came from that kind of stuff. And then hybridization started, and now we have things like let's say peanut butter breath and things like that. That were worked from breeding one hybrid with another hybrid with another hybrid. So I mean it's it's something that I think about too a lot. Is it's cool that we're at this point where we could find cannabis that smells like certain things, like candy or peanut butter, for example. Like because years back that wasn't a thing. It was just skunky or might not have much of a scent at all. Might just be earthy. So I mean, when you breed hybrids of hybrids and stuff, that's kind of the cool thing that does happen. But it also like I said, a lot of newer hybrids, they don't, not all, but some, they don't really yield as much compared to old school style strains. Like my Devil's 13, which the high yielding part that comes from Devil's 13 is from the Afghan skunk cross with Hindu Kush. That plant was a monster. Colas, over a foot long, similar to, the one Devil's 13 that I show you that had foot long colas. That's kind of like where that trait stems from. And Afghan skunk, that's old school strain. Same with Hindu Kush. I mean, Hindu Kush is one of those strains that, it all depends on the phenotype. Some people hate Hindu Kush, some people rather OG Kush or, things like that. But Hindu Kush, it's every strain I feel like has potential. It's all about the luck of the draw. You might, say if you only have 3 seeds and you pop 3 seeds and you're expecting, this miracle plant to come, you might not get it. I mean, it might take 10 or 20 seeds to find that one perfect phenotype that you're like, wow, that's exactly what I want. And that's why, clones are kind of popular right now is because, say I see this hype strain, I see apples and bananas S1, the feminized version. Say I get that and I pop, 5 or so. it's not gonna now. Yes, I might have a phenotype that's better than the clone only version. I might, or I might not. So that's kind of like that thing you pay for.
Yeah.
So if a pack of seeds, because there's some packs that are like upwards to $300 for just a 5 pack or a
Yeah.
10 pack. Whereas if you spent $300 on just the clone that you're actually looking for, you're gonna kind of spend less money in a sense because you're not gonna have to run all those plants to find that one particular
Yeah.
phenotype.
I like seeds because I feel like it's a part of the experience in the end though. Like going through those seedling
Yeah,
stages and stuff and seeing how that all comes together is I feel like it's a big part of the experience. At least obviously clones have the convenience and also the time spent pheno hunting them and stuff, but if I'm just doing like a grow where I don't really care, I'll just go from
yeah. Yeah, no, I don't blame you. Like I said, it's all about like what you're looking for. If you're just a home grower, only want a couple plants, it it would be in a way wise just start from seed because you might not there might not be a reason that you want that specialty clone because you're not selling it or just personal use or whatever the case might be. Clones usually are for the people that are making some kind of profit off it, if that makes sense. Stuff they're growing. If they're selling the flower or something, they might want that because the name. It all depends on breeding too. Sometimes, so say if I do a pheno hunt of 10, 20 plants or something, and I found the one right. I found one male and one perfect female, and I'm like, okay, what do I want to cross that with? It would be easy for me just to buy a clone, reverse that clone, and hit what I crossed up, and then I have those seeds. So it's one of those things that could work out. And that's something that's cool for me too, is because the clones that we also do sell, I'm kind of also able to use for my own breeding practice, or, as well. It just like I said, I think I told you this before, but the types of clones that I go for ones that actually I believe have like potential. There's some hype cuts out there that is just that's just it. It's hype. It's just a trend. Oreos, for example, and people are probably going to hate me for this, but Oreos doesn't smell like Oreos. I mean, the name is, if you were to, get flour or even just a clone and you're like, okay, it's Oreos, it's probably going to smell something like Oreos, right? Or it doesn't, it's kind of like that Pure Michigan. Well, I don't know. Pure Michigan it isn't supposed to smell like that kind of thing anyway, but it does have more of a chocolatey kind of scent. I believe Pure Michigan is in Oreos lineage. I believe. Don't quote me on that, but that's a strain that it was really popular when it first like hit the market, but I'm not really seeing too many people like even mess with it or even try selling it too much. There are still clone dealers that do sell it, but I don't think it's really
So what does apples and bananas smell like?
It's, I mean, in a way, a little bit of both of apples and bananas. It's more of like a funkier type of like, it's a fruity like apple funk, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to describe, but apple is definitely in the aroma of that. But it's kind of like a funkier. For some reason, I keep thinking of Laffy Taffy when I describe it. So maybe Laffy Taffy is kind of like what it smells like. I'm not sure,
fruit
but
salad smell.
maybe, yeah, like a kind of like a tarty type smell too. Like
Skittles.
yeah, kinda actually. Are you talking about the strain
like
or the
the
actual candy?
Like Skittle, like the strain to me, I've grown it once or twice. It smells like I've compared it to Fruit Loops almost. It smells like the cereal, like a fruity
Yeah,
cereal almost. Uh,
yeah.
and
It's
then sometimes I get like a
apples and
tart smell
bananas
off
is a
of it,
bit
but
different. Yeah, I'd say it definitely has that tarty smell, but like with that apple, like I
Yeah,
don't know. It's definitely unique, Skittles in general, it's I have a love-hate relationship
yeah,
with that strain, It all just depends on phenotype with that one. I've had Skittles that, for example, is the autoflower version of Skittles, and I grew it, and that was the best autoflower I've grown. Best one. I don't have much experience with autoflowers, but that was basically the second time I've tried autoflowers. First time was a fail. The second time was with that one, and I had a really good yield. I had a 1 pound plant in a hydroponic
yeah,
bucket. Um, and then it on the last week it had a big mold problem, and I lost like 80% of the flower from that.
yeah,
So um, it sucked. But yeah, but the flower itself, it didn't smell really like nothing like it should have.
yeah,
It was more of a gross sour smell, and I did not like that
yeah,
at all. But I've grown like Skittles crosses, like Zoo Runs, for example. That's Skittles cross with Forbidden Runs, and I've had a couple of phenotypes that I actually really liked with that. It actually had that like kind of like what you described, the Fruit Loops type smell. The bud structure wasn't the greatest on most of them. I had one Hermie, well, a couple
yeah,
Hermie, and I found two, one female and one male. That the male was a true male. The female did not hurt me. I put that through a stress test too to confirm that. Um, but I mean, that's kind of the luck of the draw of
yep,
seeds. You can't go in expecting the biggest yields or the fattest buds, or you just kind of have to plan them, hope for the best, and see what you get. Because it's even with good genetics, with really really good genetics from high end breeders, yeah, you're gonna have less issues. You should have
yeah,
good results, but you might not get the picture quality or the of what you buy, I guess, of what's shown in the picture of
yeah,
that strain. You might not get that in, pretty particular, but something
yeah. That's
close.
why I find myself kind of lucky having all this access to the seeds I have, and to where the point where I can run multiple of the same. Uh, oh, what? Um, to the point where I could run multiple of the same seed or same strain, and actually pick out maybe 2 weeks in the veg what structure I like the most, or I think is structured the best. But I know with people who
Right.
don't have a lot of access to seeds, they have to run what they have, and they end up with what they get.
Yeah, and I've had that before too, because like when I first started out growing, it was kind of hard to get seeds. You'd have to order them, because most seed banks were overseas. So like you have to order them, you have to wait 2, 3, 4 weeks for them to arrive. If they didn't get confiscated from customs, if you did get them, you germinate them. Maybe you have issues, maybe you don't, and then that's kind of like what you're left with, because if you don't reproduce with
Yeah,
those seeds, you don't have no more after that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, so yeah, like when I first started out, seeds were kind of like scarce. Like I was, I used to worry about germination because I was like, well, what if only a few of these germinate, then I have nothing, So it's kind of funny how things end up turning out, because now it's like if I have an issue germinating, I just, on to the next.
yeah. That's why I find it important to get to know a lot of people and get good with people in the industry, as you learn a lot, and you can have better better knowledge of what you're looking for in a plant.
Exactly. Um, it's I don't know, because I have a degree in
Yeah.
cybersecurity. I don't think I
Oh,
told
you
you
didn't?
that. It's something totally unrelated.
Yeah.
But that's something that I was actually planning on. You know, using. I plan on, going into that industry. But before, I've always had a passion for not only growing cannabis, but, smoking it too. So I've, grown cannabis for 9 years now. And it just was kind of something that was like, well, you know, I had the opportunity to start Seed Canary, and it literally landed in my lap. And I was like, okay, well, I think I'm gonna start a business. I'm gonna, do it, legitimate, and see how far I could go. And I got denied like 3 times. It was a fight. Had to get a lawyer involved, and all of this was happening around the time that COVID was a big thing, and I actually lost my job too. So it was definitely like a struggle.
Yeah.
But I kind of I worked towards it. It wasn't even really about as much about a money thing. It was more like a passion. Like I did start doing other jobs like in the middle of like starting up Seed Canary, just so I could pay rent and pay everything I had to do. But it was more. It's just a passion, if that makes sense. It is a business, but it's a passion too. What I mean by that is, most businesses, they think about one thing. They think about how can I make the most
Yeah.
money. And for me, it's like, well, how can I be the best at what I do and make as much people happy and, get my genetics across, to as many people as possible and allow these vendors and breeders to sell with cheaper rates. They're not going to be losing half their profits to a seed bank. That's kind of like the things I was looking at. Like, how can I make things better in the industry itself? Instead of thinking, well, how can I capitalize off everybody and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these places do. So yeah. It's definitely, I don't know. I'm very fortunate that this kind of came to me because like, I don't think I don't really have a passion in cybersecurity. I mean, I know what to do. I know, I went to school for it. I've been through like all the other, certificates and stuff too. It just, even though I know how to do the work, it wouldn't make me happy.
Yeah.
I'd also be replaceable because I'm not the best in that field.
Yeah.
There is people better than me, and I know that. But in this industry, there's better people than me. I'm not, I won't deny that. But with as much knowledge I have and as much passion I have, I think it'd be stupid and kind of like a waste if I didn't, stay here if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Have you ever thought of going to college for botany or horticulture?
I thought about it. It just now I think about it again. It's like, well, yeah, I don't think it'd be really what do you call it, like worth
Yeah.
it. Just because like for me, it's like I don't know. With the like, I guess in Illinois, for example, the people that do work in commercial grows and stuff, they're not being paid like what they should be.
Yeah.
From what I gather, it's it's not as fun as it's made out to be. So that's why I kind of like didn't because plus like I said, there's always going to be more for me to learn. This is kind of like a ever evolving industry too. Like we don't know nearly like as much as we probably will 10 years or 20 years from now about the plant than we do. There's just so much to learn. There's things that we don't know about the plant still that we'll probably eventually learn. Things about the cannabinoids and all of that kind of good stuff. So I mean, I don't know. I definitely I think. I mean, I know there is cannabis colleges that kind of teach you whether you want to be like whether or not you want to work, as a commercial grower, like in somebody else's company or like things like that. There's also classes that teach you like how to grow, like home grow type thing. Um, and I mean, there was it was actually a local place that they it's kind of it went on the back burner bus kind of they offered me to go there to teach people how to grow and stuff, and I planned on doing it, but and I got busy. But it is something that I do think I kind of want to reach out to them about, actually thinking about it. So that I could kind of help teach people too, because you know I mean, I don't really know how we kind of got I feel like I might be rambling at this point, but for me, like, I don't know. I like teaching people, how to do, like, how to grow, and telling people what I know too, because, there's a lot of growers that, not even just growers, like, there's just people in general in every industry that like to gatekeep, they like to not teach people, or, they make people, say, okay, well, if you pay me, I'll tell you, or I'll teach you how to do this. And that's not really what I'm about, I think knowledge should be free. I'm not really,
Yeah. So is it something you more just wish that if you could go back before you did cybersecurity to basically change your major?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely, yeah. Because the loans I have on that too, it kind of it sucks. I wish things would have worked out differently, like before I went to college and before I, completed, you know, 4 years worth. I wish I would have, had this happen sooner, but at the same time, it's still good to have, those degrees too, because like just, in case, like I said, federal laws too, like that's kind of something I am kind of scared about is, what happens, when it does become, federally legal, and, if there's going to be all these regulations that come, who knows? So it's kind of like a backup plan that I hope that I never have to use, but at least I have it type of thing,
Yeah. Have you had anything else going on?
Nothing too new. Kind of, same stuff. Been working on the breeding project. As far as like, new things with Seed Canary, like the marketplace aspect of it, not too much things have changed. We're just kind of trying to make it's all trial and error, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Things that are we see might be a problem, we try to fix and try to improve, and we're always improving the website to make it easier for the customers, vendors, all that good stuff. Um, I don't think there's we do plan on doing a couple updates here soon with basically on the vendor side of things to make things kind of smoother with adding products on and making it pretty easier. I mean, it's already easy, but just simple improvements. But as far as everything else, we're kind of we got the I guess like the what do you want to call it, like the prototype, if that makes sense, like completed. So now it's just um, fixing what needs to be fixed and that kind of stuff, and try to improve. But right now, yeah, we're focusing on advertising more, the breeding project. We have a couple of companies too that we've been kind of talking to about basically like Hero Grown, for example, the recovery ranch. Last year we sent with the Devil's 13 and Chicago Fire, because that came, all those dropped in 2022. All those seeds, like what we do is when we get large harvests of seeds, we take a lot of well, the ones that don't, they're not premature seeds, but they're slightly lighter in color or maybe smaller. Those seeds we put separately, we pack them, and then we ship them off to them. That way they're able to use those seeds to grow basically for combat vets that come in, because it's a recovery ranch. Basically they teach people how to grow, or teach the vets how to grow.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a therapeutic thing, if that makes sense. So that's why try to do just because it helps them out, and plus it doesn't make any difference to me,
Yeah.
and they kind of get to work with my genetics too, and it's kind of like a win-win for everybody. But yeah, I'm kind of looking for more companies that kind of do similar things like that. There's not too many out there though, just because I'm sure there's probably a lot of legalities with that. I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, that's something that I try to keep in mind is like because like I said, it's not always about profit either. Just like for example, there's been countless times where like people have emailed me and say, hey, I'm a medical patient, I'm on disability or SSI, I don't really have much money, is there any way you could help me out with giving me a discount or something like that? And people like that, I always usually try to help because I get it. It's tough, especially when you're trying to grow or find your own medicine because um, in the medical industry, it's not the greatest. You know, there's so many pills out there that if they don't give you bad side effects, there's going to be long term effects of them. If it might not work for that patient. So if a patient is able to get relief with cannabis and they decided, hey, I want to use this as my primary medicine, how can we grow this, how can we what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are the type of people that I try to help because I do feel for them.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess if you have any questions for me, let me know. But
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we covered everything for the most part. Um is there anything else you could think of?
I think I covered everything on the website. I think I covered everything with Discord.
Yeah.
I guess when do you think Plant of the Month is going to be up?
Yeah, we definitely have to work on that. Actually, I totally forgot about that. Um, I mean, want to start this week?
Sure, yeah, we can.
Yeah, I mean, we could, see how it goes. You could start with, just any kind of genetics, just to kind of
Yeah,
make it easy. And then, once those seeds I was talking about, once they drop, then, we could switch it up maybe, for those seeds or we can do it for those
yeah.
strains or something like that. But yeah, we should probably do that soon.
Have you heard anything about the stickers yet?
Yeah, so that's kind of like a whole a whole issue. I guess the
Yeah,
printing company, they weren't able to print them because some kind of file thing like the resolution or something. So
yeah,
yeah, after I might send them to a different company because I didn't really like how they took so long to even get back to me on that.
yeah,
So I placed the order. I thought they would email me or something for any questions, and they didn't. So I had to
yeah,
contact them, and that was the reason. So I
yeah.
might try a different company. Maybe that wasn't even an issue. Maybe they'll be able to do it. So yeah, I'll probably get on that later today.
Yeah. Um, so did you like the labels I sent you?
Which labels? Oh, the for the bottles.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like those. Yeah, I gotta get those printed. I used a different company for those.
yeah,
So those because I have like quite a few sheets still left. So I was kind of just waiting on those to kind of get low before I got the new ones. That way we could kind of
yeah,
start them like around the same time. But
yeah,
it might be around the next the midsummer drop. I should be out by then for sure. So then we could switch it up for those strains in particular.
yeah, yeah. I'm actually kind of the same. I went to two, probably three, I think, semesters of college for uh, game development. Uh, More specifically, concept art, and
Mhm.
that was expensive, very.
Yeah, no, I
So
bet.
I took a break from that for years. Still on that break. Still deciding what I want to go back for. Whether I want to go back for that, but probably more of a local college or go back for botany.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I would definitely, if you're able to, I mean, if you think this is like, something you want to stay in, doing a course like that, I mean, it wouldn't hurt, that's for sure. Plus, it's something
yeah,
to put on your resume if you do want to get, a job in the industry too.
yeah, and
Especially,
I've been
if New York becoming legal too,
yeah, and I wish I knew more people in New York. Uh, I know more people in Virginia and Illinois and you than I do people in New York. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I came across quite a few people in New York, Illinois. We have a, I don't know, it's a unique kind of cannabis community here. We have kind of a mix of different people, a mix of different opinions. There's some people that are still pretty, paranoid actually about the whole thing. Um,
yeah,
and whereas other people, the more experienced people that have been doing it, like, as long as me or longer, like they're, um, you know, kind of like, I guess, what do you want to call it? Um, they're not as, paranoid or, they're cool about it, but it surprised me with how many people are still kind of against it here,
yeah,
or yeah,
yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I've been looking for work in this area, kind of in my area of what I know. But that's like I know so many people, but all of them are kind of the far away.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of the hard part, I mean, maybe you should, it's like even in Discord, like do like New York Growers Club or something, like, because that's how you're
yeah,
gonna get to know people and get to the kind of know, other people that either A might work in the industry or B are trying to too, and that might help you out,
yeah,
It's all about who you know.
yeah. Most of where I am now, basically, is just from going with the flow. I
Yeah.
jumping, being kicked around to other Discord servers, uh, Instagram, just basically just that's how I know the people I know. Is basically just doing basically just day to day. Uh, like met you through Instagram, through the mod thing. Met a lot of people through Discord, through the Seedsman server, through other servers. It's basically and then I just learned from people who I usually just click with naturally.
Right. Yeah, I
So
mean, it's all about, like it's kind of like how it was for me, like, I didn't really get into it expecting to be, to get here, I just kind of, I was a grower looking for other growers to, share and, trade seeds with, talk about breeding, that kind of stuff. And then
yeah,
boom, that's it, life surprises you. Sometimes there's no plan, it happens.
yeah, yeah. So yeah. So now I have a podcast, and
Right.
yeah, and I just wanted to make this as like a platform for the for guests to talk about what they have going on, and not really what I have going on. Uh, but yeah, I was like, well, I know a lot of people uh that I'd like to talk to on a podcast. So then
Right.
I just kind of started it.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a really cool thing too, because that's also another way to kind of get out there. Because if you offer like to almost like anybody in the industry, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? Like, I feel like most of the time you're probably going to get a yes, because like, why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, so I mean, it is kind of like could be a good thing for you for sure.
yeah, and I just like talking about this stuff anyways. So
Yeah, exactly.
uh, yeah, and it may hit sort of awkward silence when I can't think of really
Yeah, no,
anything.
yeah, I feel you there. 'Cause, yeah, I think we've gone over. quite a bit actually.
Yeah, I think we have. I think we've gone over a lot.
Right.
Even Instagram. Went over Discord, Instagram, Seed Canary, what you have going on, the website, a lot.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much all the questions I have.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah. I don't really have any more questions either. I think. Yeah, we did go over a lot thinking about it.
Yeah, even like stuff that's outside of Seed Canary.
Right. But
Yeah, but hopefully we can get the Discord new people in it, which I don't know. I've basically just been hitting dead ends on my head a lot.
yeah, it's kind of how it's been for me for with Discord too. It's kind of like
Yeah,
there's
and
only
then
so much. Yeah.
you come up with ideas, and then other servers just steal them anyways. So
Yeah. It's usually how it goes.
yeah, yeah, I've been thinking, but the main problem is, uh, like, how do people even see your server in the first place?
I mean,
That's
I think
usually,
they probably join under a different count or something, and
yeah,
um, that's kind of how I think how some of it happens. Sometimes they might actually join under their official account or something, and then they just stay quiet or whatever the case is, and then I find out like a month or two later that they're messaging all the people there and try to send invites and stuff, and then I'm like,
oh
oh,
yeah,
why is it so quiet?
somebody's been sending me invites.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Uh, but like how do new people even find the server though? Is like I feel like the main way that you'd find a server is through either word of mouth or people inviting you.
Yeah, I mean, there's like Discord and stuff too, which you could like put your server on. I believe Seed Canary's on there. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's kind of
I think there's
one of those
somewhere you
things.
can leave have people leave reviews on your server too.
Yeah, I believe so. That might be something to check into too. That might help a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I can't really think of any other ideas, but sometimes it's just got to the point where I stop thinking,
Right.
and I have something that I have to step back from for a little.
Yeah, to kind of clear your mind and refresh.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes that's what you kind of have to do. You know what I mean? Like just to kind
yeah,
of get that mindset.
yeah. It's and then maybe we need like maybe a couple more mods.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Just kind of hard to find like good mods these days. Like
Yeah, I feel like
I don't
people
know.
that really know what they're talking about
Yeah, that's kind of the
don't
thing
really
too.
like technology, and
Right, yeah.
some people just aren't active.
Right. Yeah, because I
Like,
mean, it's either, you get someone that doesn't know much about, growing, you know, in general, or, you know, the people that do have the knowledge, they might be older or not, as tech savvy or anything. So it's kind of like a hard in between.
yeah, yeah. So it's basically just been me and you in the
Yeah,
server.
for the most part, yeah, because everybody else either they got busy with their own lives or things like that.
Yeah, or move on to another server.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we could probably end this off then.
Okay, yeah. Um, cause yeah, I
Yeah,
got
yeah. If you
check on
ever
the
want to be on
plants.
the podcast again, just let me know. Or
Yeah,
if
for sure,
you
man.
want to be on with anybody else.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I might be able to. Let me see. I mean, maybe I could. There might be a few people that I could reach out to and see if they might want to be on a podcast. Uh, Kobe might be one of those people. He's not as tech savvy, I don't think, but
yeah,
I think he should be like good enough with this to be on a
yeah,
podcast. So I might reach out to him and see.
yeah. If you can literally just click the link and hop
Right.
in. All you have to do
Yeah.
after that is talk and then stay a little after so I can stop the recording and have everything download. But yeah, but it was really fun talking to you.
Yeah.
I
Thanks
always
for
have
having me,
fun
man.
chatting with you, and so yeah, this has been thanks for everybody who's been watching. This was episode 4 of the CUNDA-CAST podcast with Nick from Seed Canary, and stay tuned for other guests in the cannabis industry, and yeah, that's about it.